everyone, and welcome back to Backyard Farmer. I'm Kim Todd, and we're excited to have you back for another hour of answering your gardening questions. You can get in touch with us by dialing 1-800-676-5446. Our phone volunteers will be happy to help you. We'll take your emails and pictures for a future show. That address is byf@unl.edu. We do need to know as much as you can tell us, including where you live, and we can't get them all on air, so sorry about that. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel and our Facebook page after the show, and let's start with samples. And Jody, you have a tiny thing.
I do, and this is something you don't normally see. So I brought an antlion, but in this stage, it's in the larval stage, it is called a doodlebug. And so if you are able to focus on this before it backs off this paper, this is what it looks like. So if you have those, sometimes people call it an inverted anthill, or it looks like a cone that is close to your house. It's in the dry, sandy soil. That is actually an insect that's under there, and it feeds on ants. So an ant will fall into the little cone, and it will flick up the sand so it falls to the bottom, and then it will eat it. So it will control some of the ants around there, but it is a natural enemy and a predator. And don't worry, it's a fierce predator. So we don't want anyone spraying those little holes or cones that are out there, because they're the good guys.
Yeah, and it's like that thing on Star Wars, and I can never remember the name.
Yeah.
The thing where you fall in the pit.
It looks bad.
It'll hurt. Bantha.
No.
No, it's not the bantha.
Sorrow something. Okay, thank you, Jody. Matt.
All right, mine will not eat ants, but it'll grow in your yard. So what I brought today is some goosegrass, because now is the time when it seems like it's all coming up. So we want to make sure that we're not accidentally thinking that this is crabgrass. So if we're trying to treat it with normal crabgrass herbicides, it's just going to stay green and most of the times will not die. So one way to differentiate it, it kind of starts off really small, kind of like crabgrass, but once it gets bigger, you can kind of see that it's got that like whitish center to it, and it's kind of a flat prostrate growth. Does ideal in compacted soils, bare areas. So this one will not react to some of the quinclorac products that control crabgrass. There's a couple other ones. Speed Zone, which is a broadleaf herbicide, does really well at burning it back. And then Pilex, which is a newer herbicide, kind of a specialty herbicide, works really well on it if you do have a bad infestation of it. So just a little bit different than crabgrass in its control.
And worse.
Yeah, and worse, because you'll usually see it where the plant was last year, and it'll just be like a ring of little baby plants, and then they'll get huge. So.
Okay, thank you much, Matt. Yep. Okay, Kyle, you're very excited about this.
I am. Is it a sarlax?
I have no idea.
Sarlax? Anyway, that's going to bother me. But it's been raining. It's been raining and it's been hot, so it's been kind of perfect disease weather. So of course I brought something that we can make in the lab at any time. These are how we grow slime molds in a plate. And so we feed them oatmeal, and the oatmeal has bacteria and other fungi on it, and the slime mold are often eating those. This is a Physarum type of slime mold, but we have this, it's on a black auger, so it's kind of highlighting the neon green coloration that we can see. But then we have the exact same slime mold on this clear one, and it's a completely different color. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. You look at it under the scope and you can see nuclei flowing everywhere. But these are the things that just grow saprophytically on your plants, on your turf, wherever. They're not causing any problems. They just look super, super cool.
Thank you, Kyle. Okay, Terri.
Well, I have something green, but it's cooler than yours.
I doubt it.
So we are just finishing up in the Backyard Farmer Garden some of our spring stuff. So I did bring a sample, and of course I will talk about it in the garden minute, but this is giant noble spinach. This has not bolted yet. It is still semi-edible because I was eating part of the leaf earlier today, and it's still tasty. But many people want spinach or greens in the summertime, And this is just starting. So this is called Malabar spinach. And this one will grow up. It makes a very nice, beautiful, ornamental vine. But you actually will just pick off the leaf and you eat those. And it does taste just like spinach. It's not related to spinach. They just call it that. But this one is a great alternative if you want those green leaves in the summertime. And it'll take the heat and kind of laugh at it. So.
Wonderful. Nice job, all. Okay, Jody, you have your first question comes to us from Providence, Rhode Island, from someone who used to live here, and this is a rose and insects all over this one. What is going on here?
These are katydid nymphs. So
Good guys?
they're a little bit of both. They can feed on vegetation, normally decaying organic matter. They don't have wings, so if you don't like them, you can remove them, but
No
they're
big
just
deal.
kind of around. Yeah, they're kind of neat.
Okay, the next one is Cedar Bluffs, Nebraska. This is also a rose. This one's only a year old. Spots on that one, and then you have two pictures on the next one, which is an old-fashioned 20-year-old rose that looks just dreadful. So it's rose bug time.
Yeah, so the first one, I called it like the exploding flower head. That one could have been thrips. And so what you want to do there is make sure you remove the buds and remove all of the flower parts so that the thrips are not going to be, to minimize that being there, and throw them out. And then sanitation for the garden. And then if you need to, maybe a systemic. And then for these other two with that big stand of roses, it looks like it was hit with a really bad case of the rose slug sawfly, and then with all the heat, maybe really starting to make those really crispy. And so I talked to Scott a little bit. He said maybe quarter fertilizer to try to green that up when it gets cooler, and don't expect as pretty flowers as you may have in the past.
All right, and then these two, and we don't know where this one is from either. She thought this was mildew. This is not mildew.
These are likely aphids, and so I would prune that section out so the aphids don't spread down to the other parts, but there's aphids everywhere.
Yes, and you're going to talk about them later. All right, thanks. Lots of trouble with roses. All right, Matt, two pictures on the first one, and then you've got another one that's a follow-up and another one that's a follow-up. So this first set, they popped up close to a fernleaf peony. She really wants to keep the peony, and she wants to get rid of this. And then your next one is from Bellevue, and she wants to know what this plant is, growing like crazy. And then you've got another one that's a weed one. So what do you think about that's your Bellevue one?
I think they're all weeds for the most part. I think they're all poison hemlock. Those are just in the early stages. In that first one, you could kind of tell by the stem. They're usually a hollow stem. And then this one is already flowering. So once you get to that flowering stage, the best thing you can do is try and remove it, because it's just going to spread a lot of seed, and it's going to, cause problems for years to come. So don't let it get to that point. If you can, remove them. And if you want to be safe when you're removing them. I don't really have much issues with them walking through them. Some people might be more allergic to them. So I would say wear gloves, long sleeves, and then put it in a plastic bag is what they recommend. Tie it up and then put it in the garbage. That way, you're not putting it with your compost or anything, because it can still have those toxins in it.
All right, and we have one more for you, and this is a Council Bluffs viewer. He wants to know if these are weeds and how to get rid of them without killing other plants.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure these are weeds. It's a goosefoot family, so maple leaf goosefoot is probably the closest I could get to it, or nettle leaf goosefoot, and you don't really want them either. I think they're more of a native summer annual that grows all over the U.S., so it's not something that's really like a noxious plant, but it's something that you probably want to get rid of, so it's not going to continue to seed out and spread in your garden. So I'd say just pull them out. Otherwise, broadleaf herbicides, I would say 2,4-D works pretty well, but not in this heat. You're probably going to kill your plants next to it as well.
All right, thank you, Matt. Two picks for you on the first one, Kyle. This is at the Landing here in Lincoln, and they have really some beautiful raised beds. Tomatoes, and they're looking like this, and they're all in raised beds. The soil is decent, the management is good, and follow up with her.
Yeah, well, Matt just talked about broadleaf herbicides and injury. And that's what I think is going on here, especially in the first picture. You can really see some of those leaves that are curled and distorted in a ways that viruses usually don't work. Especially with, looks like most of the tomatoes have been affected. I think it's a drift issue. Unfortunately, I don't know if they will flower. You might just be kind of out of luck with those tomatoes right now, unfortunately.
All right, one picture on the next one. This is also a tomato. This comes to us from Omaha. Weird bumps on the stem and then the roots. And we had some weird bumps on the stem, I think, last week that were aerial roots or roots. But what are the bumps on the bottom there?
I think these are other roots. And so it's one thing that tomatoes will do is they, especially when it's wet, they will shoot out some extra roots right along the surface. And I think that's what had happened. It was wet, then they got dried out, and those roots kind of shriveled up and went away. I wouldn't worry about it. Sometimes there can be some herbicides that may cause that sort of issue, but most likely it's just environmental.
All right, and you have one more, Kyle. This is from Litchfield. She's wondering what's going on with the zucchini. She doesn't think it's powdery mildew. She thinks it happened overnight, but she did look at the underside, and she doesn't think it's powdery mildew now.
I think it is powdery mildew. It looks a lot like powdery mildew to me. With how wet everything was, it was wet, it was cloudy, it was prime powdery mildew conditions, and there were low levels of it out there, and then that weather that we had about a week ago just was ideal for it. So I think that's what's going on. Nothing to worry about. Just make sure that you are watering from the base and not doing that overhead watering because you don't want to spread those spores.
Excellent. Okay, Terri, your first two pictures come to us from Kearney. It's a 3-year-old weeping willow, has a limb that he didn't prune last year. He's worried about the symmetry of the tree. Is it too low? Should he prune? Wait till spring? What do you think?
Honestly, if I look at it, I probably would leave it. It does look a little off a little bit, I guess, but honestly, it's up to you, however you would like to manage it. However, I would probably wait till it's dormant if you wanted to get it off and kind of even out those two sides so that your weeping is an even on both sides.
All right, one picture on this one, Terri. This is a burning bush. Old, large, has new growth coming from the bottom. One year he did take it back, and he's wondering, should he take the new growth off or cut the whole thing off and let the new growth become the new burning bush?
You can do either or. You can cut the new growth back and let it grow up, or cut some of the old growth back and let the new growth kind of take over. Honestly, if I look at this, I think it looks fantastic and it looks like it's about the right size in this space. So I probably wouldn't take a lot of it back because I think you would be disappointed if you pulled a lot of it out. But you can do maybe like, normally we say the third. Maybe this one would be like a fourth, and make it a little bit longer.
Okay, and you have 3 pictures on the next one. This is an Omaha viewer. This is also a euonymus, but this is a tree-form different species called Polly, and he's had it 25 years. He likes the tree form, but it's got this wonky funkiness going on at the base, and then he's calling it hair, but it's the aerial roots, I think, on your next picture. He is doing some things like removing the rock, doing some of those things to keep it going. What should he do here?
Yeah, no, I'm pleased that you're kind of removing those rocks like we always tell and going to more organic mulch for that. Some euonymus, especially some of the crawlers or creepers, they do get this, and that kind of, those are just the aerial roots. I wouldn't worry about them. It's going to be a little unsightly, but I think that if you kind of let them train, I would try to get that water away from there as possible. So if you can move that downspout off, that will help with some of that aerial root issue too. But you're doing all the right things. Maybe do a little bit of pruning when it's dormant in the fall, and we can watch and see how it grows.
Excellent, thank you, Terri. Well, most of the time, tiny aphids aren't much of a concern unless their population explodes. The good news is they aren't difficult to control. So here's Jody to tell us more.
seeing a lot of aphids this season on every plant imaginable, from trees to flowers, and as usual, our milkweed. So what can we do about it? First, I want to talk about how you can identify aphids really early. So when your plants start coming up and greening, you want to check the undersides for aphids. And what you'll be looking for are exoskeletons that kind of look like little white wormy things, but that's their shed exoskeletons. If you see that, you know that aphids are feeding and developing there because they've got to shed their skins to molt. You may also see ants on your plants, and if you see that, that is a sign that aphids are nearby, because ants, they find a lot of sugar out naturally in the garden because the aphids suck on sap, and so therefore they release honeydew. So it's sugary sweet, and so ants love to farm them. They actually will move them around and protect them from predators. But those predators are really important too. Things like ladybugs or lady beetles, their larvae and adults will eat up to 50 aphids per day. We've also got syrphid fly larvae, and we've got lace swing larvae, which are very great natural enemies. So we really do want to keep them around. One of the easiest and non-chemical ways to get rid of aphids are going to be by finding them and squishing them. It can be a little messy with your hands, and you may feel a little bad or a little good, but that way you'll remove them from your plants so they will stop feeding and stop reproducing. Another thing you can do is spray them with a really strong spray or blast of hose water. It will knock them off the plant, and you'll get a little relief for a couple days, but you're going to want to do that every 2 to 3 days so that they can't multiply. Aphids are very, very good at reproducing quickly because they don't need to mate. They can produce clones of themselves, and that's why you will see them one day and the next day they will just look like they've taken over the plant. So this is something you want to do throughout the growing season. If you do want to use something else, we recommend insecticidal soap. That will be, I guess, more gentle, but it's something you are going to do repeatedly. Other than that, you want to just keep checking your plant and keeping up with those aphids because they won't stop, but neither will we. So enjoy your garden and have a great summer.
So if you do see a big bunch of aphids in your garden this season, no need to apply those pesticides. Get out that spray of water, especially when it's hot. All right, Jody, 2 pictures on the first one. This comes to us from Fairbury. She says overnight they had something eating the Brussels sprouts. Can you tell what it is and what they should do about it?
Yep, those are imported cabbage worms, and it wasn't overnight. They've been there for a long time, but the larger caterpillars eat like 85% of like their weight when they're older, so you got to pick them off early.
So just pick them up.
So those white little butterflies flying around, those are laying eggs on the, what is it, brassica? Mm-hmm. Brassicas.
Yep. Okay. All right, one pick on the next one. Jody, this is a Lincoln viewer. Black-eyed Susan plant started looking poorly, and then small black bumps and small black caterpillars. They removed this plant. They want to know how they can prevent the others from getting it.
Well, these are checker spot caterpillars, and they turn into checker spot butterflies. So they're really pretty butterflies. They're orange and black. So you can remove those leaves if you want to, or you can even squish the eggs if you don't want those caterpillars.
All right.
And then you won't have the butterflies.
That's true. So you have one on the next one. This is a Hastings viewer. I think we just saw that one, which is the same thing, little caterpillars on that one.
Checker spot.
Checker spots. So this is a couple 3 spruce pictures. Cunningham Lake, 25-year-old spruce, had this on it this year. It's not bagworms, anything they should do on this one. And then these 2 are in Craig, Nebraska, northeast Burt County. Also spruce, brown tip dieback, and I know you and Kyle had some back and forth, and we've had this one 2 or 3 times already this year.
Yeah, we were talking about this because I don't see like spruce needle miner. I don't see the mats with the caterpillars. It could have been when the trees were candling. We had some like 90-degree days in May, so that could have done that. But I don't know, Kyle, are there any
Yeah, I mean, there are some Pterococcus blight would be one of the fungal diseases that can cause something like that, but especially with it being all over the entire tree, I think it probably is. It was, yeah, the candles came out and it was hot.
Environmental.
Yep.
And maybe if they really need to know,
They can send in a sample.
there you go.
Yep,
Send in a sample, and you can have the back and forth again.
exactly.
All right, Matt, you have 2 pictures on this first one. This is Lancaster County, southwest of Denton. They're wondering at what point do you want to start controlling a potentially invasive plant, which is yellow sweet clover. Pulling it out by the roots, is that an option? She does say it's creeping into the lawn around the house, which is mowed, and of course it's kind of creeping around all over in Lincoln too.
Yeah, sweet clover is really thick this year. So it is actually a biennial. So the first year it's going to put on all the growth, and then the second year it's going to bolt out and flower. And so maybe we're just seeing a big flush this year, but it seems like it's doing really well. So it will spread from seed and get into the lawn. So the recommendation would be to treat early in the year before flowering. And usually broadleaf herbicide 2,4-D is probably the easiest one to use, and that will help control it in the lawn or into your grass mixes where if you don't want it in there as well. I like it. It smells good, but it does continue to spread.
It does spread, but it does smell good.
Yeah.
Very, very good. All right. 2 pictures on the next one, Matt. This is a viewer who is wondering what this is, and is it toxic or is it dangerous?
I don't think it's dangerous, but
than
sometimes
the
those burrs get on you and it can be dangerous. But it's common burdock. I don't think it's really toxic. I think it's actually the root is eaten or made into a tea to treat some illnesses. Maybe not locally, but in Japan, I think they use it. So it is a biennial as well. So that first year it'll grow those big leaves, and then the next year it'll shoot up, and you'll have those seed heads on there, and they will stick to animals' fur or to your clothes, and they're pretty Velcro-like. So I would just dig them out with a spade and get rid of them.
All right, and don't let them flower and
don't let them
go burr
because
on
then
you.
there'll be lots
Yeah.
of them floating around.
People
And
also
stuck to your animals as well.
Right, and people also, when these are young, we get questions, is this rhubarb?
Yeah,
Or is this edible?
It's more of a furry leaf, so I don't think it. Yeah.
It's rhubarb with Kyle's rots and spots
Yeah.
on it.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. You have 2 pictures on the next one, Matt. This is a Sioux City, Iowa viewer. They have buffalo burrs and potato beetles, and they're growing 4 rows of potatoes in the garden. You get how to control the buffalo
Yeah, buffalo burr is a pain. You got to wear some nice leather gloves and pull that stuff out. But you can see that it actually has the potato beetles on it, and I found out that is actually the natural host where potato beetles started. So it's actually eating those instead of your potatoes. So maybe keep them around, but don't let them seed out. And wear gloves because they're very pokey. But yeah, I would say get rid of them before they seed out because it's just going to cause a lot more buffalo burr for many years to come.
And how do you get rid of them?
In that case, you're going to pull them next to the plants of the potatoes because anything that you would use for herbicide would be not safe around those.
All right, thank you, Matt. Okay, Kyle, two pictures on the first one. She's saying this is the week of June 8th. They had a 2x4 foot patch of grass go brown. Is it all the rain and now the hot weather? Do you think this is a fungus? They don't see any grubs.
It is a fungus. This is Ascochyta on turf. It's if you look closely on this picture, you can see that a lot of the blades, they kind of look like a hypodermic needle, and the tip of them is bleached. Very common with Ascochyta needle blight. But it's one of those fungi that we don't need to do anything about because it is purely caused by root stress. And with how kind of square and the right angles, the square corners there, I would wonder if maybe there was something laid down, some sort of soil compaction there. So I would recommend maybe trying to aerate that area, see if there's excess thatch. Make sure you're watering it well in this heat, and it should come out of it just fine.
All right, thank you, Kyle. 2 pictures on the next one. This is a Fort Calhoun viewer. This is Carolina allspice, about 3 years old. Galls or something, they're saying. It's in an open meadow, area. They wonder what this is, and we have allspice on campus. I don't know that we've seen this.
Yeah, I have not seen this on allspice either. These are some beautiful pictures. This is, there's beauty everywhere, right? It's nature's wondrous pageantry. But this is allspice rust. Piccinia cityi is the name of the fungus. And learned a cool thing about it. It's the alternative host is guava. So if you have guavas nearby, you'll want to make sure that you're controlling it. But luckily, you probably don't have guavas nearby. Regardless, sorry, I go on tangents. This is just one of those things that it shows up. Really nothing to worry about. It's because of the rain.
All right, and 2 pictures on the next one. This is a Lincoln viewer. They think this Goldstrom Rudbeckia has septoria or angular leaf spot. Too much to pluck off. How do they get rid of it?
Yeah, this is septoria, so good job there. You know, at this point, you would probably just, if you are wanting control, you would need to use some sort of broad spectrum fungicide. Something like chlorothalonil is what I would use.
All right, we got rid of ours on campus.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is it's just those leaves are just going to continue to have spots.
Okay. Terri, 3 pictures for you on this very first one. This is fine line buckthorn, 8 to 10 years old, and the growth is varied, prevention, everything else, dead material. They think it's environmental. Can it be repaired?
Well, good job on the diagnosis. Yes, most likely environmental. I actually drive by several on my way home from work every night, and I've watched them slowly decline over the past couple years. They've just really taken a big hit with like our really dry winters and stuff. You can try to prune some of this back, but really just the way those grow, I think you're probably better off just maybe going with something different and starting anew.
All right, thanks, Terri. 2 pictures on the next one. This is a Grand Island viewer. Spirea hedge, 40 plus years old. They've been cutting out all the scrub trees. They've got thorny things and woodbine. They're wondering, can they save the spirea, and how do they eliminate the woodbine?
Oh, good luck. So really what you're gonna have to do, and it's gonna take you a while since it's this long, you're gonna have to go back in, pull that woodbine out, maybe do the glove of death, get down as far as you possibly can, maybe even do some shrub herbicide to put on that, and then make sure that you're pulling out the scrub trees too, or the volunteer trees that are there. Give those spirea as much air as you possibly can. Cut back the dead, and then I would just let the spirea be and then kind of manage it next year, because you're going to be messing with it way too much this year to try to get all that other stuff out. So give those spirea kind of a year to kind of recover from everything else you're doing, and then manage them next year.
Great. Okay, 2 pictures on the next one. This is an Aurora viewer. Her blueberries are exceptionally productive, long strands of berries. She's wondering, should she prune those off after the harvest?
I'm going to tell her that most of the time we tell everybody not to grow blueberries here, and look at this. So yes, you want to probably prune them back. You can cut them back a little bit, but really it's kind of a 5-year process of canes, and you have cut just a couple back every year so that you always have new canes growing, and you have this kind of succession. Unfortunately, these kind of look like you may not get very much next year, but if you tell me where you live, I'll come taste them and make sure that they taste okay for you.
Exactly, that was great. Thanks, Terri. Well, we've had some good rain come through a lot of areas of Nebraska this week. Things are starting to warm up as we head into summer, and before we go to break, let's take a minute to hear from Gannon Rush from UNL's High Plains Regional Climate Center about how hot is hot next week.
Thanks, Kim. There's no sugarcoating it. It's going to be a toasty one. Highs will be in the hundreds for many from Friday through Sunday. The heat index will also be extremely dangerous, particularly in the eastern part of the state. Out west, areas such as Scottsbluff and McCook could set their daily record highs. There is some good news that a cold front will move through on Monday with areas west of Grand Island in the 70s and 80s. This cold front will also bring in a decent amount of rain. A good chunk of the central and northeastern part of the state has a chance of receiving 1.5 inches or more of rain. There could be some scattered storms over the weekend, but the bulk of this will fall on Monday. There could be some heavy rainfall associated with these storms, so definitely keep an eye on that. And that's your week of weather forecast. Back to you, Kim.
Thanks, Gannon. We're going to take that short break now. Coming up, we have the plants of the week and the lightning round. There's much more Backyard Farmer right after this. Welcome back to Backyard Farmer. Coming up later in the show, Jeff will give us some timely tips on what to do and what not to do with your turf this summer. You can still phone in those questions to 1-800-676-5446. Send us those pictures and emails to byf@unl.edu. And of course, right now, it is time for the lightning round. Terri, your first time in the Hort lightning round this year, I think.
Yep.
Ready?
Sure.
We have a viewer who bought a Baby Cakes blackberry. It's 2 years old, prolific flowers and no fruit. How can she make it fruit?
Well, you'll probably have to trim it back. I actually had it. It's going to go all over the place, so keep trimming it back. It'll fruit on new wood, so should be just trimming.
Okay. This is a Humphrey viewer. He wants to know, is it okay to trim the top branches off an apple tree when it's too high to harvest it?
Yeah, you actually should prune a lot of your apple tree. You should be able to have a lot of movement through it and air through it, so yeah.
All right. We have a viewer who says the winter was hard on their Harry Lauder's walking stick. The middle is dead, the bottom and the top are alive. Prune it to the bottom or start over?
No, because that's grafted, so probably not going to do very good luck.
This is a Council Bluffs viewer, tongue in cheek. If left unchecked, would Husker Red Penstemon take over the earth?
Yes.
Should strawberries be pruned after harvesting?
Yeah, you actually kind of have to take care of them and get the mother plants out and then baby plants in, and there's a lot of work to strawberries. It's easier to go to the farmer's market.
All right, thank you. Okay, Kyle, ready?
Of course, I'm still riding the high after my win a couple of weeks ago.
Well, you're not going to win
Don't
this
count
one.
on it.
I probably won't. I never had before. But.
All right, your first one. This is a viewer who has lots of beautiful annuals in a planter box. Powdery mildew on almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to treat for the powdery mildew?
Yeah, I mean, you can use a fungicide if you want to, but typically it's just a moisture problem.
The same viewer wants to know if she decides to give it up, does she have to start over with new soil in that planter box? Will that help?
No, that's not going to do anything.
All right. We have two viewers now who have sent us pictures in the last few days with their green bean leaves are showing brown, irregular, angular spots, and then they're collapsing.
Sounds like angular leaf spot of the bacterial disease. Don't spray a fungicide.
All right. This is a viewer who wants to know whether verticillium wilt will move from species to species, catalpa to redbud to flowering crab.
Yes, most likely. It has over 500 different species it can infect.
All right. This is a viewer who has hollyhock rust this year and has never had it before. What's the deal?
It's a rusty year, same like it's an aphid year.
Right. How long can you expect a big tree with shrooms at the base to survive?
You know, typical extension answer, it depends. Sometimes a long time, other times not very long. So keep an eye on it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Matt. This is a south of Lincoln viewer. They aerated, they fertilized, they used a pre-emerge Easterish. They're wondering about a second application or a third application of any of that.
Yeah, typical time around now, June 1st to 15th for a second app of your pre-emergent.
But not when it's 100.
Yeah, probably not. But like those herbicides generally don't affect the turf because they're not acting on the turf. Just water them in.
All right. We have a viewer who wants to know, is there an herbicide that will control spotted spurge in her perennials?
Yeah, there probably is some pre's that I would put out there, like even some like pre and extended control would be a good one. But I wouldn't go with posts because you'll probably smoke your perennials.
All right. And the same viewer is wondering whether that herbicide will then neutralize the seed bank.
No, unless it's a pre, it will definitely prevent the new ones from coming up. Isoxaben is an extended control preen. That one helps.
All right. This is a viewer who mulched with straw and now has wheat coming up all over everything, and it seems to have seeded into the grass as well. How do you control it?
Just mow it.
Okay. Nice job. Okay, Jody, ready?
Yeah.
Loaded question.
I didn't make them up.
Those are all high school. A lot of
Okay, Jody, this is a Sioux City viewer, the same one. How to get rid of those potato beetles in those 4 rows.
Hand pick them while they're larvae so they don't turn into adults.
All right. The very first of these squash vine borer moths has been discovered. What can be done about that?
So you want to check the vines for those eggs, and if you do want to treat, just spot treat by the vines because you want to get the caterpillars before they get into the vine.
And where do they check for the eggs?
Close to the vine, so like close to the ground.
All right. This is a viewer who wants to know how to get rid of the bagworms on his sea green juniper, which is the shrub form.
Okay, so they have hatched, and you can treat with BT. You just need really good coverage so that you get them while they're young and they'll stop feeding.
All right. This is a Bellevue viewer who says, would ants be bringing the aphids to the gooseberries, and how do you control without hurting the pollinators?
The ants are there to farm the aphids, and they're not bringing them there. I wouldn't manage the ants outside.
Okay. Nice job. I'm not sure Kyle won
Kyle.
again. Oh,
I'm on a roll.
well, we'll see if we can stop that.
We'll call it beginner's luck.
All right. Well, as I said earlier, we've had some good rainfall this week. That has really helped our garden get off to a great start. Here's Terri in the Backyard Farmer Garden to tell us more.
This week in the Backyard Farmer Garden, we are thoroughly enjoying all of the beautiful colors that are showing up in our plants that we've gotten planted. Everything's mulched, everything's being well taken care of by our irrigation system and the sporadic rains that we've been getting every once in a while. But one of the things that we really want to look at this week are our raised beds. Remember, we had a lot of those spring crops in our raised beds early on. A lot of those have come out, and we have some great summer vegetables in there. We're seeing our kohlrabi start to grow, and one of the things that's really interesting and I'm keeping an eye on is that we have a spinach that we've never grown before, and it is still doing really well, huge leaves, and it has not started bolting. So we're gonna kind of keep it in the raised bed to kind of see how long we can get it to go, especially when we start getting into these really hot days. So come by and stop by the Backyard Farmer Garden and check it all out.
Our vegetables are really taking off. Soon we're going to be harvesting those things to donate locally. And right now, plants of the week, Terri, what do we have?
So the first one is the ladybugs. So this one's gonna get to be about 4 foot tall. It's very vertical. It will reflower from the lower leaf axils. It does like kind of part shade, and it will spread by seed if you allow it. And then the little pink one down here is called Princess Diana clematis. It's a climber. It can get to be about 5 to 6 foot tall, and it does have a really long season of blooming. And then they will, the flowers will turn upwards like that, so towards the sun. So they're kind of a pretty little pink and purple combination.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Terri. Well, and we always have announcements of things going on in the gardening world. A couple of them. One of them is the Wachiska Audubon Society and Spring Creek Prairie Audubon Center Tour the Wild Side, Saturday, June 21st, 10 to 2. That should be great. And then the Syracuse Garden Walk is Sunday, June 22nd, 11 to 3 p.m. And that is something you can get tickets to in Syracuse. So great things going on in the gardening world. All right, pictures. One on this one, Jody. This is a Blue Hill viewer. I'm wondering, are these eggs on the butterfly bush? Are they good or bad?
These are oleander aphids. Squish them.
Okay, you have one on this one, and this question is simply, are these aphids?
These are sunflower aphids. Just leave them.
Leave them. or squish them. And then you have another one, and this is actually on Creeping Jenny. And what is the scary looking white powder?
They look like mealybugs, so I would just prune those out.
All right, 2 pictures on the next one. This comes to us from Neola, Iowa. Question on some spruce planted. He's wondering, are these adelgids like aphids and harmless, the white stuff? What do you think that is?
They actually don't look like adelgids. I don't know if it's sap or something coming from that trunk, so I would probably just investigate a little further, see how that tree is planted and if there's any like cankers.
All right, and one more, and this is a Lincoln viewer, had to cut down a magnolia, but this year it's got all these white spots. Is this a fungus?
This is magnolia scale, so you want to try to remove, if you can reach this, remove as many as you can, and then treat with insecticidal soap or horticultural oil in August when the crawlers are out.
All right, thank you, Jody. 3 pictures for you on this first one, Matt. Southwest Omaha viewer wonders what this grass is. Windmill, nimblewheel, Bermuda. What is it and how do you control it?
Yeah, I mean, to me it looks like Bermuda grass, and it can survive the winter here, and then it just takes a while to come back in May. I mean, that and zoysia grass are kind of in the mix. I can't tell by just looking at some of these pictures. They're good pictures, but you get in a little closer and you can see if there's like leaves on the upper or lower of the leaves. So either of those, you're controlling them the same way. There's one product that works well as a non-systemic, or it basically will kill the Bermuda and the zoysia. Pilex, which is a newer herbicide. 3 applications of that, though. There's a recommendation on the label. Otherwise, you're going to have to, treat it with a non-selective such as glyphosate to get rid of it, but then, let the other grass come in or reseed. So that's kind of a tough one when you have small patches of it.
All right, 1 picture on the next one. All he says on this is Gretna, this is an annoying plant.
Yeah, it looks like an annoying plant if it's just popping up everywhere. But I've never really seen this one or had issues with it, but I've heard that lots of people do. Chameleon plant or Hatunia. And it can spread by any piece of the plant. It can regrow is what the problem is with this one. So treating it with something that is non-selective would be the option now instead of like a 2,4-D product, because you can just burn it down. Let's say something that contains glufosinate or some of the other products with like a pantothenic acid, to burn it down, and then you're just gonna have to keep doing that to get rid of it without harming the other plants.
All right, and 2 picks on the next one. This is a Blair viewer. How do you control sumac in grasses?
So sumac in grasses is easy to control. Actually, now is kind of the time to control when they're flowering, using a 2,4-D again product, or a product with crossbow has basically triclopyr and 2,4-D in it. So just be careful, not when it's this hot, but when we get those cooler temperatures, treat it and it works well.
All right, 3 picks on this one for you, Kyle. Disease spreading through the nursery, and it's basically the cultivars of white oaks.
Yeah, this is probably the most severe case of oak tatters that I've ever seen. It's not actually caused by a pathogen, a fungus, or anything like that. It's just a weird thing that happens to oaks sometimes. There's some affiliation with certain herbicides, but we really don't know. It's just one of those things that happens and makes the trees look not very great.
All right, 2 pictures on this one. This is the Council Bluffs viewer. Why did the sycamore drop its leaves so early? Is it anthracnose?
It is anthracnose. Probably the most common disease on sycamores. I wouldn't worry about it. Sycamores typically produce more than enough leaves.
All right, and 3 pictures on this one. This is a Ravenna viewer. Honeycrisp apples, leaves turned brown, dried up. Is there a treatment? Everything else is doing well.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a weird fire blight that is going on here. Some of the pictures you can see that characteristic shepherd's crooking of the petioles, and they're kind of black. Really, the best control for that would be just pruning out those branches. If there is a canker, make sure that you're pruning down at least 8 inches below that canker.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Terri, 2 pictures on the first one. This is a Northwest Iowa viewer. This maple has sort of some funky things going on the trunk, and this is one that is a near and dear tree to the granddaughter's heart. So the canopy looks good, the trunk looks bad. Any thoughts?
I really looked at this pretty close. Some maples do kind of have that shaggy bark once they get a little bit older. There's a little bit of a wound on the trunk, but it looks like it's healing itself really well. There's a little bit of a wound up at the top kind of, but I think it's fine. Just keep an eye on it and you should be good to go.
All right, one picture on this one. This is also a maple. Treated professionally for chlorosis, no improvement. Does it need iron and sulfur? How about the Whitcomb method? What do we think here?
Well, you can't for sure know which nutrient it needs if you don't. You have to do like a leaf test to figure that one out. There's lots of issues that could result in this issue, but it's just the way it is. And to change the pH of the soil takes a lot. So with that big of a tree, I don't know. Honestly, it looks pretty healthy. And just say that it's supposed to be that color.
All right, 2 pictures on this one. This is a Council Bluffs viewer. Wondering if he cuts down the weak-looking, unhappy redbud, should it grow back as a beautiful multi-trunk bushy tree? They were siblings and yeah.
Oh, I don't know. You can try it. If you want to get rid of the tree anyway, you might as well just try it and see what it will do. Once it gets that old, I'm not for sure it'll actually come back up like that, but you're not out anything if you wanted to get rid of it anyway. So try it.
I had one go down and there it comes back up and it was 60.
Well, there you go.
All right. Well, we haven't focused very much on turf this season, but as the heat is starting to really boil, there are a few tips that will make your turf make it through the summer. Here's Jeff to remind you of a few things to do and not to do with your turf.
Now that our spring is coming to an end, thought this would be a great time to look at some of our summer turf maintenance items. The first thing we want to look at is raising the deck of our mowers, making sure we're mowing at 3.5 to 4 inches. If you haven't sharpened your blade lately, this would be the perfect time to get that done. That'll help make sure that we don't have any roughly cut grass that will cause us some problems with disease and kind of heat stress going through the summer months. The next thing we want to look at is making sure that we're watering correctly. We don't want to water overnight, again, to avoid diseases. And we want to look at getting about 1 inch of water a week on our turf, and that includes any rainfall. So if we're getting some good rains, you may not have to worry about adding any additional water to your lawn. As far as fertilizing, this is really the time we hold off on fertilizing for the year. We'll wait till later this in August or early September to do any fertilizing. So no fertilizing right now. And we want to hold off on doing any kind of weed spraying. So a lot of the herbicides will get volatile, it'll kind of get around the yard, and that's when we end up with our vegetables having some herbicide damage. So we want to avoid doing anything like that right now. So it's going to get hot. We want to make sure that we get our mower decks up high and we're checking our lawn, making sure that it has enough water but not too much, and timing our watering just right. Avoid our fertilizer and avoid doing any herbicide spraying at this time, and that should get us ready for late in the summer.
Thanks, Jeff. And it is probably a good time, as Jeff said, to do a little bit of maintenance on that mower, like keeping those blades sharp, raising that deck. All right, final round. Jody, you have one picture on this first one. This is so cool. It's the first year she's been growing a little snick-snack pepper. It's in a container. She saw these little things hanging down from a couple of leaves. What are they?
These are good guys. These are the eggs of lacewings. They are predators of aphids, so they probably had aphids. And they're laid on these stalks so that when the larvae hatch, they don't eat each other.
That's very clever. All right, 2 pictures on the next one, Jody. This is a Lincoln viewer. She's wondering what this fly-looking thing is that is hanging out on her hops. She took some pretty good pictures.
They are, and they're so cute. And those are rabbit botflies. So if you can believe it, that was living inside of a rabbit's, either its rump or its neck. Yeah, I know. Everyone's making faces.
Oh,
but
my goodness.
They're so cute as adult flies. They don't even eat as adults, but yeah. Rabbit botfly. When it's under the skin for those couple weeks, they're called warbles.
Warbles?
And the rabbit lives through it. The rabbits are fine.
How in the world do they come up with names like warbles? Who knows?
Did you bot flies? Robert, that's so cute.
Oh, it's beautiful.
All right, on that note, let's see. On this one for you, Matt, 2 pictures. This is an Omaha viewer. Wondering, are these flowers or weeds? They grow in the garden wherever they don't have plants. Should they be left or pulled?
I don't know, they look kind of pretty, but they will spread crazily. They're yellow wood sorrel or oxalis, and they actually have those little seeds on them. They look kind of like a banana, but when they are ripe and you touch them, they just pop and they spread the seed like 10 feet. So they'll just keep spreading. One way to take care of those would be to use a pre-emergent herbicide with isoxaben. So I mentioned, I think, Preen Extended Control. That one helps and works well on that one. But yeah, you're gonna have to burn them back with some non-selective herbicide that's not gonna volatilize.
All right, and 2 pictures on the next one. This is a viewer who has maple, wondering whether a pre-emerged herbicide would prevent the helicopters of the maple from taking root. And I think the second picture, it appears they sprout without being in contact with the soil.
Yeah, especially when it's raining, there's enough moisture down there, it gets in the seed, and then the seed will allow it to sprout instead of root. Yeah, pre-emergents really will not work on those big seeds, so I'd say just mow them off, and that's your best option, or pull them if they're in the landscape beds, because pre's generally don't work.
Okay, 1 picture for you, Kyle, on this one. This is a Nebraska City viewer, Arbor Day Farm. Found this fungus. What is this among us?
Well, I hope they didn't bury somebody under there, because if they did, it would be a zombie. These are dead man's fingers, caused by one of our Xylaria fungi. There is probably a tree there or some tree roots, and it's just sprouting there. Something really fun and cool.
All right, and 1 picture on the next one. This is a Missouri Valley, Iowa viewer. This is a Mutsu apple tree. The leaves all have brown spots.
Yeah, this is cedar apple rust. Finally made it onto the apples trees, and we're starting to see it everywhere. At this point, there is nothing that you can do about it, so just enjoy apple trees that look like they've been spray painted.
All right. Terri, you have 3 pictures on this one. This is a Lincoln viewer. She has strawberries. She's saying they have a great canopy, start producing fruit. They never get a crop. Fruit doesn't mature or the berries rot. This is year 2, and the same thing happened the first year. So apparently these are 2-year-old.
Yeah, so this is purely management. You're keeping them too thick, so there's not a lot of air moving through there, and not good pollination. Pollination has to happen mainly with insects on these. So try to clean them out a little bit, remove the downspout so that it's not staying so wet. There's a little bit of gray mold, so Kyle's probably happy about that, and get some air circulation through it.
Well, and then she'll have to do some moving of daughters and killing of mothers. And
there's a
doing all
lot
those
of
sorts
management with those strawberries.
Yeah, there is. All right, Terri, 3 pictures on the next one. This comes to us from Fairbury. Planted a bloodgood Japanese maple in late April. He's got several others. They didn't have luck with redbuds and dogwoods, so they put this Japanese maple in instead. Hasn't had to water much. He has deep watered, but he's started seeing a few leaf spots. Is this fungal? Would it be a liquid copper, or is this totally environmental?
Yeah, please do not spray anything on this. This is completely environmental. Japanese maples are a little temperamental here, and it does take a lot of water, especially to get those trees started. So the first week you're watering it, or first 2 weeks you're watering it daily, at least a gallon a day. The 3rd through the 12th week, you're watering it every 2 to 3 days, at least a gallon a day. And then after that, you're watering it for at least a year, weekly, a gallon a day until well established. So it does take a lot of water, lots more than most people think, to get those trees established.
Well, and I think the one thing we also don't know on this is that maple in full sun.
Yeah, they like a little bit more shade. I did try it in full sun and it didn't work, so.
We've seen some pretty big ones around, but I think they are in exactly the right conditions. So good luck with that but for heaven's sakes, don't treat
do not
for
treat
anything it doesn't have. And I think that goes with every single panelist. Don't treat for something that it might not have just because you think it's a good idea to treat it for something because you can't stand to not treat it.
It is. It's amazing how often, people will send in samples, and I just sprayed a fungicide. Well, it was a bacteria, or it was a bug.
Or it was a bug.
And
That's usually
yeah.
Sprayed a
the sun.
Or the sun.
Or the sun, one way or the other. So yeah, don't spray with anything but water. All right, and with that, we will wrap it up for this week's Backyard Farmer. We do want to say thanks to everybody who's submitted those questions and to our panel for another great show. Helping us on the phone this evening, we had Carol Rustad and Linda Helton. Next time on Backyard Farmer, we'll be focusing on some issues we've been seeing in our oak trees. We'll hear about galls, wilt, and blight, and what you can do to prevent them from damaging your oak trees. Don't forget to stop by the Backyard Farmer website at byf.unl.edu. Sign up for our monthly newsletter. So good night, good gardening. We'll see you all next week, right here on Backyard Farmer.